Hi! Welcome back to Angela Does Horror. A few things just off the top. I know I'm not supposed to be holding the microphone, but it has like a tripod that attaches to it, and it's missing. And I think my daughter must have taken it. Toddlers. So I will have like a fixed audio for the next thing because I know it is better for audio. But just stick with me for this one. I know I said I was going to do Your Next because I love Your Next. I'm actually like halfway through with the Your Next video. But then my friend and I saw The Substance this weekend, and I just felt so inspired that I had to do it. It was so fucking good, you guys. Like, I want to see it again right away. It was so good. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, The Substance stars Demi Moore in what I think is arguably her best role to date. She killed it. Oh my god. Honestly, for this to be like the best thing that I think that she's done in her career is fucking cool, man. What is going on there? Whatever, this movie taught me to love myself, so I don't really care what my hair looks like right now.
Stop lying. You're a liar.
So the movie opens, it's dead silent. When we were in the theater, I mean, you could hear a fucking pin drop. I was eating popcorn, and I just suddenly noticed the sounds of my own crunching, and I was like, oh. Let's not do that. Silence, just pure silence. So we open on just a shot of an egg on like a blue background. One thing this movie does really well is it really utilizes like up close shots, and it makes it feel kind of like claustrophobic, but they do it in such this artsy way. I saw a lot of nods to Kubrick and David Lynch and different things like that in this movie. Like, it's truly a beautiful movie to watch just for the cinematography alone, so A+ there. We open on a shot of an egg on a table. There is a syringe filled with some green goo that is injected into the yolk of the egg on the table. I still can't, what the hell is this? I'm going to stop for a second because it does bother me. And this has something to do with the movie, so we'll get to that. Let's see. I know I said I was just going to love myself, but not that much. This is so applicable to the movie. Okay, so the egg is shot up with this green goo, and all of a sudden the yolk splits itself. It creates a new yolk just based off of that one, like a cloning kind of situation. And that is our opening shot. We see a shot of them putting a new walk, or a new star, on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And it says Elizabeth Sparkle. And we see them like laying it in, all of this stuff. We get this great overhead shot of the star and kind of all of the phases of celebrity that happens on that star. Like, we see kind of a premiere take place where Elizabeth Sparkle, presumably, is standing there. Everybody's taking pictures of her. Everybody's saying, Elizabeth, Elizabeth, over here, over here. I don't know why photographers are always so angry at celebrities. I guess it's just to get their attention, but they need to stop yelling. Anyway, so it goes through that, and then there's people passing by that come specifically to see the star, and then as time kind of goes on, it's more like, oh yeah, I remember her, oh yeah, she was in that one movie, and then more time goes on, and people are like spilling their food on the star cracks. It's a really beautiful way to show time marches on. Somebody that started as a star you're always going to be replaced by somebody younger, somebody prettier, somebody newer, whatever. Especially in Hollywood, that's just kind of the way it goes. Especially for women, you kind of have this expiration date, and I know there are exceptions to that, but as women, I think we certainly feel that pressure to stay young and beautiful as long as possible. And it's just not the way the world works, unfortunately. And so we kind of see this degradation of the star in this opening shot. And again, it shows us so much of the message that we need to start this movie in such a really artistic, really cool way. So we finally are introduced to Elizabeth Sparkle, the woman whose star is on the Walk of Fame that we've seen, and she's played by Demi Moore. And I just have to say, I could not figure out if Demi Moore's face at the beginning of this movie was enhanced or AI. If not, my God, you look fantastic, woman. That's insane. I don't know how old she is. Gotta be like 50s, 60s? And maybe even if they did enhance it a little bit, I mean, she's clearly got the goods. She's 61 years old, you guys. What the hell? Honestly, she's the perfect person for this part. So we see her. She's like a kind of, like a Suzanne Summers type. Famous for having like an aerobic show where she's hot and working out. So we see the shots of her working on her show, and then after her show, she goes down this long hallway. Beautiful. I love their use of long hallways in this. It feels very like Kubrick, shining coated. She walks down this long hallway. The women's restroom is out of order, so she goes into the men's. While she's in one of the men's stalls, Dennis Quaid walks in. I guess he's like a CEO of the company or like a big producer. He's a big wig. That's all we really need to know. He walks up to the urinal. He's having a very obnoxious, loud conversation with somebody. And we get this great shot. The camera is right at the urinal, and he's like talking like this. Really makes you feel like, ooh, right up in his face, and like it grosses you out in this really visceral way. That's really fun. And he's basically saying that he doesn't know why this old bitch has been hanging on so long. We need to get somebody new and young and hot in there. And she's old news, and we're done with her, and she's got to get out of here. And of course she overhears all of this because she's in the bathroom. Obviously that's devastating. She's very aware that like her star is nowhere near rising like it once was. In fact, it's in decline. That's such a shitty feeling. Especially when you've built your entire life on admiration of others, and now it's like, well, I don't have that anymore. What do I have? And maybe you don't have anything other than that, which I think in the case of this character is true. And that's a really scary, lonely place to be. She's out driving around. She notices that they're taking her billboard down. And she's distracted by that, and it causes her to get in this car accident. It's a really brutal car accident. It was really scary to watch, just because the camera stays in the car the entire time, and you can really see like every roll and impact. The hospital, and luckily there are no injuries. One of the young doctors, while she's there, kind of like pinches along her spinal cord, and he says, "Oh yes, you would be a perfect candidate." What the? While she's there, he slips a little USB in her jacket, so when she gets back to her beautiful apartment that overlooks the city, she takes this USB out of her jacket, and it says the substance or whatever on it, and it has like a phone number. She plugs in the USB, which loads up an advertisement for the substance. And the advertisement basically says, do you wish there was this better you? Well, we can offer that to you now. And the way that that works is that you do this science stuff that we're going to send you if you choose to participate. And you will birth, essentially, or it doesn't say birth, but like, it doesn't really say how the other you is going to get here, but we'll get to that. It just basically says that another you will be created, and the rules is that you have to share time. So 1 week old you is in, the next week young you is in. The next week after that, old you, next week young you. So everybody gets 1 week of time. Alternating. And you cannot go over those 7 days without exception. Don't fucking go over the 7 days. If you're gonna do it, fine. Don't go over the 7 days. It's very clear and specific. Don't do that. But people don't. Gosh. That's always the way it is, isn't it? So basically, because she's at such an emotional low, she decides that she's going to go ahead and move forward with the substance trial. So she goes to this sketchy location, some back alleyway, and she like scans the card that they sent her. It's all very discreet. And the little metal door opens like that much, and she's just kind of like, okay. And she crawls in, and then she comes into this big white room that has all these like lockbox safes on the wall. She notices that her card says 503, so she puts it up on there. She opens the door, there's a box there for her. She takes that home. She opens it. Inside is all the equipment that she's going to need to grow her own younger, hotter alter ego, basically. She starts going through all this stuff. There's this, like, syringe fluid called the activator, and you're only supposed to take that one time, and that activates the whole process. Only take it one time. Important. So she takes that. There's, like, food supply for each of the bodies that's going to be out for the week, so obviously they don't die. And so she goes into the bathroom. She gets completely naked. Again, I don't know if this is Demi Moore's actual body in this movie, but if she's supposed to be old and flabby, like, what the hell am I? Because she looks really good. And if that is her real body, like, fucking go, girl. Badass. She takes the activator. She's just kind of waiting to see what happens. And for a second, she's like, oh my god. Well, this is so stupid. I actually thought this was gonna... And then she starts to feel it activating. She falls to the floor in pain, writhing in agony. And we see this, like, movement up her spine. Like, there's some kind of, like, big maggot or something inside her spine moving up. And the area down her spine starts to split open. And we see something busting up from underneath. And literally from the giant split down her back from her neck to her butt, this hot woman busts out literally from the inside of her. And we think back to, like, the egg thing, okay? Like, it's literally split off. Another thing that they said in the video is to remember that you and your altar are one person. It might feel like you're not one person, but you are. And it gets a little confusing, and we'll talk about that in a second, but that is an important thing to remember, is that you are both they call the original person the Matrix, okay? So the younger, hotter version, it's still you. It's still part of you. Be that for better or worse. So this young, hot, perfect-bodied little piece of ass pops out of Demi Moore, and she's looking at herself in the mirror, and it's Margaret Qualley. My god, this movie is 30% ass shots of Margaret Qualley, and I'm not mad at it. The 37% of me that's lesbian was very entertained by all of the gyrating and the butt shots, and I really like that. I mean, it was... I liked it. I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me. I'm a lesbian now. Margaret Qualley comes out. She names herself Sue. So I'll just refer to her as Sue from now on. Sue goes into the casting office where they're recasting for Elizabeth Sparkle. And I mean, she fucking nails it, you guys. With an ass like that, how's she not gonna nail it? She nails it. And Dennis Quaid, I think his name's Harvey in the movie, which is appropriate because, like, he's a scummy producer. They're all named Harvey, right? And he is obsessed with her. He's like, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. We're gonna make so much money off that ass. Yeah. She's got the job. She does say, oh, well, I have to work every other week because I have to take care of my sick mother. And he goes, look at me. We'll do anything we can for you because you're so hot. I also just want to mention there is this very disgusting scene where Dennis Quaid is eating giant shrimp and he's like dipping them in mayo, and all of the shots are really close up on his mouth. And this movie, one thing it does is it increases the audio. So you hear these nasty chewing sounds. You see all the close-ups of him going... Probably was the most disgusting part of the entire movie, and that is saying a lot because this movie gets very gross very fast later on. Amazing. So I just really appreciate those little moments in the movie. There's also the same kind of thing when she's shooting up the activator for the first time, where they really linger on those close-up shots of the needle going into the arm, the sounds. And for me, I could not watch that. I hate watching people shoot up in movies, specifically like heroin. If I'm just at the doctor and they're taking my blood or something, I can handle that. Watching somebody shoot up on camera, I don't know what it is. I could pretty much watch anything else. There's a scene later on where she's pulling out her teeth and the fingernails are falling off. Fine with that. Could watch that all day long, but I just don't want to see somebody shoot up. It's my personal thing. When Sue exits Demi Moore, there's this big open hole in her back. And so Sue sews her up in the method was bad. Why wouldn't you just continuously sew her up? She does like 1 sew, 2 sew, 3 sew, like pinches all up her back, and it's like, you can do a little better than that, I think. Why would you do it that way? But whatever like fake skin they're using, so good. It looks so real. It pulls like real skin. It sounds like how I feel like real skin would sound. Very effective. The makeup and like prop department in this movie, honestly, they should win an Oscar because it is viscerally gross and accurate, I feel like. Obviously, I've never seen somebody's skin busted open like that and sewed back together, but I would imagine that is what it would move like. While Demi Moore is sewed up, laying in the bathroom, Sue feeds her little, like, food pack supply of food up her... She has to inject the food kind of in her back. And it's enough for 7 days of just, like, a nutrient slush, I guess. There is one thing that Sue has to do every day, and that's activator fluid. I think that's what it's called. Basically, she has to take a little bit of juice from Demi Moore and inject it into herself every day. And if she doesn't do that, then she starts to, like, her nose starts bleeding. She starts to get dizzy, and, like, it's like the subconscious is going away. It's not good. It looks like a medical emergency. And so she has to take a little bit from Demi Moore every day, and there's just enough in this supply for 7 days worth of Demi Moore juice. It does not take long for Sue to rise in the ranks because she is so hot and young. And before long, they decide, we want you to be a huge star. You're going to be huge, and you're going to be the next thing, the next hot thing. Even so much so that, like, a huge billboard goes up of her outside the apartment. So now it is Elizabeth Sparkle, Demi Moore's turn to be amongst the living. And upon waking, she sees this huge Sue billboard out, and it's this, like, harsh reminder that she's being replaced, that she's old news, and this younger version of herself, though this is what she wanted, I imagine that there is, like, a big part of jealousy or, I don't know, self-hatred. Why can't it be me, even though it is you, in a way? Because Sue has everything that Demi Moore wishes she had, which is the public's adoration, everybody looking at her, everybody telling her how beautiful she is, and that's all she wanted, and it's literally, like, at her fingertips, but she herself still doesn't get to experience that, and that's a harsh reality to grasp. This leads Elizabeth to kind of enter, like, a depression zone. Like, her life is not glamorous at all. She overeats, she's glued to her couch, she's just eating garbage, she's just staying up all night, and it's obvious that she doesn't have any sort of, like, a social life or anything at all. It really felt like this is a depressive state. There are certain things about this whole process that I also, like, can identify with addiction, because, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but there's this you that emerges, like, at least for me when I'm drinking, that it's this me that in my mind is like, she has everything that, like, I wish I had, which is, like, confidence and just self-esteem, and she's funnier, and she has the ability to go out and interact with people and be social, whereas, like, sober me, it's harder for me to do that. There's two me's. There's this sober me and there's this better me when I'm drinking, and it's just not the case, you know? You're the same person. It does feel like two different people a lot of the times, and that's hard to kind of grapple with. Obviously, Demi Moore is kind of in her depression era. When Sue wakes up and it's her turn, this really angers Sue in a way, and she thinks that basically Elizabeth is this pathetic, sad human, and it makes her want to extend her time in the body because she's going out, she's doing things, she's getting all these accolades, she's getting all this attention. She deserves more time, especially if the other person is just sitting on the couch, eating terribly, just being depressed. It's like, well, then I should get more time because she's not using her time the right way. And it's these two different sides of self. You have these manic episodes where you go out and you do all these things and life is great, and then there's always that depressive episode waiting on the other end of that, wallowing in your own self-pity. Those two sides of yourself often do anger each other. If you've been in that situation, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, the anger that Sue is feeling towards Demi Moore, it gets so bad that even at one point, she goes past the allotted 7 days, which you're not supposed to do. Rule number 1, don't do that. But because of her hatred for Elizabeth and her feeling that, well, I deserve this more, I'm making more out of it, she decides to extend her time. And so she starts taking more of the Demi Moore juice, even when she's not supposed to. And the consequences of that are not great. When Demi Moore finally wakes up after the extended period of time that's gone over, the 7 days, she's got this disgusting witch finger. Like, it's a decrepit, rotting finger. Because Elizabeth is somebody that is so image-focused and so hateful of herself and has this desire to be this perfect, beautiful woman, obviously this is alarming to her, and it just kind of feeds into that depressive state. She calls the people on the phone, and she says, it's not fair. She's taking more time, and it's draining me, and I'm turning into this gross witch. And they basically just tell her on the phone, like, look, you both are the same person. Like, you both have to respect the time. And obviously that doesn't help her at all. And so she kind of spirals into more of a depression. And there's even a point where she sees somebody out on the street that earlier in the movie, that she went to high school with, and he's just so enamored with her. He's like, oh my gosh, wow, you did so good for yourself. You were this amazing actress. Like, oh man, you're still so beautiful. And he gives her his number just as kind of like on a whim, like, hey, if you ever want to like catch up, hit me up, we'll get a drink. And at this point, with her witch finger, she's just feeling so low. And she feels like, you know what, I need to do something for myself. My time is still just as valuable as Sue's. And she gets up, she gets dolled up for this date, and she looks beautiful. Like, she looks so beautiful. And she just keeps looking at herself in the reflection in the mirror, and she doesn't like what she sees. And she keeps getting closer and closer to the door to leave, and the clock is ticking down, and she's going to be late. And she keeps going back and just taking her makeup off, and each time it gets more and more angry and forceful and abusive towards herself. And eventually she's almost out the door after she's redone her makeup like 2 or 3 times, and she sees the big billboard of Sue, and that's just kind of the final straw for her. And she just has this mental breakdown where she's just scratching the makeup off of her face and fucking up her hair. And it's this really emotional scene. Honestly, like, I don't know a woman who hasn't been there, who hasn't felt that, who hasn't done that. And the humiliation and embarrassment that you feel afterwards is just unmatched. Sadly, I've had a lot of experiences where I've done the exact same thing, and honestly, just the shame that you feel afterward and the self-hatred, it's so sad. It's really sad, and it really kind of showcases this pressure that women feel a lot of the time. Now, I don't know, maybe there are men out there who don't like the way they look and are beating themselves up in the mirror because of it, but I think more often than not, it is more of a woman thing. And it's like, you can be so beautiful, but the thing that you see in the mirror is different from what you're seeing in your mind, and you just hate yourself for it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really lonely, sad feeling. and they really nailed it. She ends up missing the date just because of this self-hatred spiral. And the sad thing is that the guy's sending her these text messages because he's just excited to go on a date with this beautiful woman who was a celebrity that he knows. And I guarantee you, if she had shown up to that date, he would have thought the sun rose and set with her. But that's just not her experience, and it's sad, and she misses it. And you know that guy doesn't understand why she missed. To him, it's probably devastating too. Kind of like led him on and then just ghosted him. You know, from his perspective, he has no idea what's going on with her. The self-hatred that she's feeling, this depressive spiral that she's having, the loneliness. I'm sure he can relate to that, but she just secludes more. It's sad. It really makes you feel something. And I say that as I'm like, oh yeah, like trying to fix my hair earlier in this thing. It's like, dude, it's fine. It's fine. At one point too, Elizabeth does run into the doctor who gave her basically the USB for the substance. And it's when she's going to pick up her refill. She's got to go weekly to pick up these refills. And she runs into him, and he's now this old, decrepit man. And he warns her that the other her will suck the life out of her. She doesn't really listen, though. So Sue, now angry at Elizabeth for how she's deciding to live her life, decides to go as long as she can. Just completely disregarding the rules we're building towards. And so Sue's star is on the rise. She needs as much time as she possibly can, and she does not care what it takes to get it, especially if it's at the cost of Elizabeth, because she fucking hates Elizabeth. And another time to point out that they are two sides of the same coin, and it's such a good representation of just self-hatred and the different sides of self. Beautiful. Mwah. So leaving Elizabeth to basically rot away in a newly built closet inside of her bathroom, she goes out to enjoy her beautiful life. I think something like 3 months went by, and I was panicked. What is Demi Moore gonna look like now? She's gonna be bones. She's gonna be bones. Basically, she just keeps stealing the Demi Moore juice, right? 3 months worth. You're only supposed to go 1 week. What the fuck is Demi Moore gonna look like? Right before the big New Year's event, Demi Moore's body runs out of juice. And there's this nasty wound that she's taken the juice from, very similar to Requiem for a Dream kind of thing, like shooting up needles into the... She's like, fuck, I need more stabilizer juice. I have to perform at the New Year's Eve party. So she's forced to switch with Elizabeth. She has to switch back, or else she's just gonna die, I guess. And so she's forced to switch back, and then we get a Demi Moore reveal that's pretty gross. Yeah, it looks like she's aged decades. She's old, and like her back is hunched, and her legs are just... I mean, she's disgusting. I'll try to find a picture or a clip or something. Obviously, spoilers. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. And you know what? Worse than that, she isn't just old. She also looks like a fucking creature now. Like a non-human creature in a way. So obviously, in a panic, she calls the number for the substance, and she goes, I want to stop now. I want to stop now. Like, we got to stop this now. And so they send her some termination fluid, which will basically kill Sue and stop the substance trial. But she can't go back to the way she was. She's stuck like this as she is. And also that kind of plays into the addiction process too, where it's like, ooh, each time you get more and more removed from actually who you are. You look more and more like a monster, but you can't stop. God, it's relatable. So Elizabeth drags Sue out into the living room, where she begins to shoot her up with the termination liquid. She's almost done shooting her up, but God, like right at the end there, she sees the billboard for Sue, and there's this part of her that just can't do it. Like, realizing that Sue embodied everything about her career and herself that she wanted to get back, she just can't do it. I think she said something in her like emotional meltdown when she realizes that she can't do it. She said something about like, you're the best parts of me. That hurts. That fucking hurts. Basically, to the shock of everyone, this partial termination seems to have severed the subconscious thing between them, and allows them to both be awake at the same time. So Sue's awake, Elizabeth's awake, and they're like, what the fuck? And Sue sees the termination liquid on the floor, and she goes full fucking force at Elizabeth. She's pissed. And so they have this huge fight. It's pretty awesome. It's like Demi Moore and all this prosthetic makeup, and she's killing it. I mean, she's giving the performance of her fucking life. I'm not joking. But because Sue is younger and she has an advantage because she's not a bent back creature, she ends up with the upper hand, and she beats Elizabeth to death. It's pretty brutal. Okay, so that leaves Sue. She has just enough time to make it to her New Year's Eve thing. So she heads to her New Year's Eve performance, and as she's on the way, things are kind of starting to not be right. Her teeth start falling out, her fingernails are pulling back. At one point, her ear falls off. Like, things are falling apart quickly. Like, what are you gonna do, girl? You gotta be on stage, like, soon. So since Elizabeth is dead, Sue feels like she doesn't really have any other option other than to take the activator fluid again, make a better version of herself. Because now she's falling apart, and she's like, I gotta have a better version of me. Like, I can't let this go. You were only supposed to use that activator juice one time. Not 2 times. When she takes the activator fluid, instead of producing like a younger, hotter version of herself, this monstrous creature is born, and it's kind of a blend of Elizabeth and Sue, and it's just this big, like, it's got parts everywhere. It's got an arm sticking out. Demi Moore's face is like stretched out right back here, and it's like this gnarly, messed up creature. The creature design on this thing is so good. It's so good, you guys. This is where the movie kind of takes like a wild, crazy metal turn. Monster still decides that it's best to go to the show. Because we can't give this up, you know? This is what it's all been building towards. She tries to like curl the hair, but the hair, there's no hair. It falls out. It's disgusting, like stringy, old, gross hair. She tries to put an earring in, like the other ear's way up here. It's just a mess. In order to not have people find out about what she now looks like, she sticks a big Demi Moore poster to her face and just kind of to the show, okay? People are gonna notice, I think. She manages to make it all the way to the stage. All the way to the stage with this big cutout of Demi Moore on her face. From there, it doesn't take long for people to see the monster that she has become, and they all start to freak the fuck out. Despite pleading, it's me, it's Elizabeth, it's Sue, in this garbled kind of monster voice. The audience has turned on her, and they are slashing at her. At one point, she gets decapitated, and a new disgusting piece grows in its place. At one point, a whole boob falls out of its mouth, just like a boob. I love this shit. While that's happening, like, metal music is playing, blood is spraying everywhere, blood is spraying on butts. You see like shots of butts with blood just spraying on them, and it's a fucking party now. It's a party. It's so good. It just turned into like a gore show. The monster just keeps getting pieces chopped off and growing new parts or whatever, and it makes its way outside, and it doesn't get very far before it just kind of explodes into a million pieces. The piece that has Demi Moore's face on it and all this like gnarled up bits of person crawls its way to the Elizabeth Sparkle star on the Walk of Fame that we saw from the beginning, and just dies there. And that's the end of the movie. Yeah, let's talk about it a little bit, because I feel like, as I said, the self-hatred like concept of this movie really hits home for me, and the fact that there are these two different sides of yourself, and each side kind of hates the other side. I just feel like a lot of people can relate to that. especially people with like mental health issues. And also, like I was saying, just like as a person with addiction, this quest to be this best version of yourself at whatever cost turns you into a monster. And the person that you started out as was enough. You were beautiful enough. You were smart enough. You were enough. And this constant need to have all the adoration and to have all of these like accolades and the eyes on you and things like that, it's just a path to destruction. And I will say this movie has never made me, or I will say there's never been a movie that really made me as appreciative for my body and my face and all of the things about me, because oh my god, just to watch the descent that Demi Moore took just into misery and what she physically became, it's just like, god, like it really made me appreciate who and what I am. And I feel like this movie does a really good job of that. I feel like it's going to be a cult classic. I feel like, honestly, it is some of Demi Moore's best work. She's so good in it. There's this scene where she's watching Sue on TV giving these answers, and she's just kind of to her answers and stuff like that. And it just really reminded me of certain times in my life with myself where it's like, just being so critical of yourself and hating yourself. And the whole thing, like really just to sum it up, the whole time it was like I was begging Demi Moore, just love yourself so the misery can be over. And that's a really powerful message, and that's a message I feel like a lot of people need to hear. And it just so happened to come in this beautiful package with great creature design, great like cinematography, the acting was amazing, everything 10 out of 10. And the message really spoke to me, and I just really wanted to talk about it today. I feel like I've been going on and on about it, but I just really needed to like get it off my chest, because if you haven't seen this movie, you should see it, especially if you love creature stuff, body horror. There is a lot of gross body horror, but the acting is, I mean, honestly, it's just so good. It's so good, you guys. And it's been a long time since I've seen a horror movie that just really spoke to me this much, but also really impressed me with all of the other aspects of it. And I want to see more of that. And I'm so happy that Demi Moore kind of came out of, you know, a prolonged break from acting, and this is the first thing that she did. And I just love it. I just love it. Yeah, so hopefully I can turn this video around and kind of make it into something that you guys want to watch. Hopefully I can find some clips and some pictures and stuff. But yeah, definitely go see it. Go see it immediately. You won't regret it. It's really something special. I'm really glad that they're stepping up the horror genre, especially now, into something deeper than just gore and, you know, scares. Like, there's a lot of really darker plot lines and different things that we can really explore using horror as a medium, and I'm really happy that we're starting to do that now. And I think it just makes it just a really interesting, you know, complex final thing. I don't really know what I'm saying here at this point, but yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Your next will definitely be next. I mean, unless I see something more in the meantime, because I'm flighty and I'm fickle. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe, please. More videos to come. And I just wanted to make an announcement. Like the second week of October or so, I am going on a trip to the Timberline Lodge in Oregon to stay at the hotel that The Shining was shot at, the exterior shots. And they're doing like an on-set cinema thing there where you can watch The Shining at the place it was shot, and they're like turning the ballroom into this whole Shining thing. And then me and my friend are staying at the hotel. So I'm probably going to shoot like a vlog or something from there and just kind of talk about what that experience is like, because it's pretty cool. Yeah, so definitely more to come, some videos in the pipeline, so please like and subscribe because it helps me so much, and comment if you have some time. I'm a new channel, so all that stuff helps a lot. But thanks guys, thanks for tuning in, and love yourself. Peace.